couple more minutes.
Let's see, we get out of here in about 15 minutes. So.
Okay, I can give you maybe 5.
Okay, sounds good. Anybody have any more questions?
Looks like we're wearing you out.
Why did he call leadership the best part of like rhetoric being a big part of leadership?
Come on over here. He can hear you. What? Just because you're not in the front.
Hey, why do you say rhetoric was one of the biggest parts of leadership in your book and just a couple seconds ago?
You know, I think you can guess. If you think about rhetoric being a way to help people make choices, especially the right ones, if you know what they are, of getting groups together and getting them to take action. You know, how else do you define leadership, right? So if you think of the tools of ethos in particular, getting people to like and trust you. If people like and trust you, by definition, aren't you a leader?
How do you get people to trust you?
I'll add one thing to this. One of the reasons I think that rhetoric got me so interested, well, there are a couple of reasons. One was I loved to read and loved literature, but I always had a sense that, and I love poetry, still love it. But I always thought that words could sort of get up and make a living for themselves. You know, that words had a certain power that I didn't understand. Once I started learning about this, I realized they had a power that was especially for somebody like me. I'm an introvert by nature. So, I mean, there's a reason I'm in a cabin in the middle of nowhere. And I like being alone. And I'm shy. I don't like meeting new people very much. I mean, this is relatively easy for me because I'm kind of used to it. And I've been in the business world long enough that I can put on an act and look social. But you know, the skills of rhetoric allowed me to relate to people much better than I could before. And I've been studying this stuff for more than 20 years, 25 years. So it's been a long haul for me. But I think that, when you talk about the art of leadership, I think that the art part of it is especially useful for people who aren't the first people to get up and speak, or aren't the people who get energy from other people in a room. My wife's an extrovert. She'll go to a party or whatever, and she'll come back just buzzing. I'll come back dead. I mean, like, barely able to move from all the effort of having to talk to people. And I think that that's, so for introverts and shy people, rhetoric is the greatest thing ever invented.
Do you think it's a mask?
That's an interesting question. I think that there are some tools of rhetoric that can help you apply masks to yourself, but I'm not sure that that's the right term. I'd say that, in everything in life you play roles, right? Yeah. Like right now, you guys are students. You're students in a room, When you're home, you're sons and daughters. When if you have jobs, that's a different role you play. When you graduate, you take on different roles. So when I'm in the corporate world, I don't talk like this. I speak very differently. I'm a lot more serious, for one thing. And then, on the other hand, when I'm speaking at a university, I'll speak differently. Those are roles. They're not masks necessarily. I'm not disguising anything in myself. I'm just, I'm relating differently to people, practicing decorum in different ways. So those are roles, and we play them, and I think rhetoric can help us play them better.
I have one more question. You were talking about right and wrong. Isn't right or wrong a matter of perspective based on your audience, what they find morally right and morally wrong?
Yeah, I mean, there are values that people have in common and disagree about, and it's really hard to change somebody's values. That's what I call the inarguable. On the other hand, I don't know. I mean, now we're getting into moral philosophy. I think there are some things that are absolutely right and wrong. Thou shalt not kill, except when you have to and you're a member of the military. But, and there are some things that I think some things are sins, that shouldn't be committed. And those are my beliefs, and people might disagree with them, but I think in our society, there are certain absolutes that most of us follow. And, I think there's a reason we have prisons and prosecutors, because there are some things that we kind of agree on in society that are absolutely wrong, right? I mean, but yes, there are values that people disagree about, no question about that.
I was just wondering because you can change what you, as a speaker, think is morally right or wrong based on what your audience believes as well. Basically, changing your decorum.
Yes,
You fit your
but the
audience.
thing is, I think it's really important that, I mean, these days especially, people under 30 in particular have really sharp radar for what's inauthentic, what's phony, because they get so much phoniness all the time thrown at them. And I think it's a whole lot easier to not to betray your own values. For one thing, I think that's wrong. But also, you know, speaking to values you share in common it's a whole lot easier to convince people of. And you know, I find I work with people in all political stripes. I have really close friends who are passionate right-wing Republicans. I'm an independent and moderate. I have people who are far to the left of me who are really good friends. And I enjoy them all. I love hearing what they have to talk about. What's amazing is we share so many values in common. We think it's really important for families to get together around the dinner table, for instance. That's something I find on the right and the left about equally. You know, I have friends who are on the far left who attend church every single week, and people on the far right who attend church every single week. I have friends on the left and friends on the far right who are Muslims. You know, do we share values? Absolutely, most of them we share. I think what we tend to argue most about politically are the relatively few values we actually disagree about. And they tend to be like, I don't know, to me, they tend to be the fine print, you know, in the Bible or Quran or whatever you're reading. So I don't find it hard to, you know, talk to people about values. What I do find hard is when people start bandying about these words they don't really think about, like terms like freedom, you know, without really thinking what that means. Jobs, what does that mean exactly? You know, we hear people, especially in politics, throw out these terms all the time without really considering them. That drives me crazy. That's almost as bad as the Oxford comma not being put in a sentence.
Got anything else?
Oh.
What's the Oxford comma?
It's the comma up to the end, right?
Yes.
Huh?
Like a third
It's the
comma.
comma.
Like, other people don't use it, but I use it every time.
Yeah, I do like apples, bananas.
It's like apples, commas, bananas, commas.
You put a comma before the
We went over it the other day.
Like, our president, a racist and a fascist. Like, if you remove the comma, it would
See
be
what I mean?
our president, a racist and a fascist. But if you have the comma,
I don't.
it keeps them together.
Okay. You may have any more questions?
Okay, so that's a great framing issue. You know, it hasn't been called the Oxford comma for very long. That's a relatively new term. I knew it for years and years as a serial comma. If it were still called the serial comma, people wouldn't be talking about it. It's like Oxford branded the comma. So because it's called the Oxford comma, it's a big deal. You know, so anyway, I just wanted to throw in another rhetorical thing here. Framing is the thing I use to make money. In most of my consulting work, I do framing work, which is how do you brand things? How do you call a subject something different from what it's been called before? So, for example, the Republicans call inheritance taxes death taxes. That's brilliant branding, first class. So reframing is a great way to sell something like a comma and make people actually interested in it. Why is packed you full of rhetoric so you can't even stand it anymore?
One can always stand.
Okay. So we'll let you get to whatever you need to do. Is it 4:30 there?
It is. I got some work to do. But so if I could just leave you guys with this, stay in touch with me and stay interested. You know, this may not make sense to you now, but let it percolate in your head. Remember that in any kind of persuasion, it's not about you. It's about the beliefs and expectations of your audience. Keep that in mind in the years to come. Go to a college that takes rhetoric seriously, not just as some weird literary venture, but